call this meeting order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call. All council members are present, with the exceptions of Mike Olson, who is not with us this evening. We also had our, we have our agenda that was presented. Is there any changes to the agenda as presented? Is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Motion by Dave. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Warren. I'll call the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. 4 in favor, none against. Moving on to our minutes from our December 4th meeting. Is there any corrections or additions or changes to the minutes as presented?
No.
None. Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
So moved.
Motion by Warren. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Dave. Call the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. 4 in favor, none against. At this time is our public open forum. Is there anybody here who wishes to address the council? Anybody here this evening who wishes to address the council on any matter? Third and final time. Anybody wish to address the council? Okay. We'll move on then. We do have one public hearing this evening. So I will close the regular meeting and open up the public hearing. This is a public hearing before us this evening in regards to the liquor fee amendment, establishing a new fee for a nonprofit to obtain a restaurant on-sale license. It is our intention that everyone has the opportunity to be heard. If you wish to speak regarding this matter, please sign in and at the sign-up sheet in the back of the room. And then we'll go through the procedures as follows. We'll have presentation by staff. We'll have public input. Raise your hand when recognized by myself. Approach the podium. State your name and address for the record. State your comments and position. No one will be allowed to speak a second time until everybody's had an opportunity to be heard. First, we'll hear questions for clarification. Second, we'll hear those in favor of the proposal. Then we'll hear those in opposition of the proposal. After everyone who wishes to speak has had the opportunity to be heard, the hearing will be closed. After closure of the public hearing, the council will deliberate and take action as appropriate. Members of the audience do not participate in the council's discussion unless a majority of the council concedes to hear additional information or questions. This hearing is now in session. Staff?
Okay, over the past several years, cities, including Sauk Center, you've been working with the state of Minnesota on liquor law compliance and licensing compliance. And one area that comes up with the state is club licenses. And a club license is like a nonprofit, like the American Legion. We had the Sauk Center Country Club. Those were the 2 club licenses that we had in Sauk Center. It's essentially the same as is issued to a restaurant. However, due to the nonprofit of the license holder and the membership requirements, it's issued at a lower cost. In Sauk Center, a restaurant on sale is currently $1,750, and a club on sale ranges from $300 to $650, depending on the membership. The requirement to maintain the club license status is that only club members and their guests may purchase and consume alcohol. And we have historically obtained from the clubs a signed statement that alcohol is served to members only as a way, or their guests, as a way to minimize any city liability that may arise if there was ever a claim from liquor liability, as if somebody were in an accident and it triggered the insurance claim. The state of Minnesota recognizes that it's difficult for cities to enforce this requirement, especially in determining who is or is not a guest, and has recommended, and some of them have taken this on, that they'll issue an on-sale restaurant license rather than a club license to those who qualify. Several cities have done this at renewal. Our renewal period is actually July 1st. We're talking about this now because it's actually the time of the year that we issue amend the fee schedule. As an incentive to get clubs to make the switch from a club on sale to a restaurant on sale license, many cities have set a fee specifically for nonprofits, the same as if they would have got their club license. And that's what's proposal is on here for you tonight, Because basically for the same fee, we would just issue a restaurant license rather than a club license. Then it takes the liability away from the city for any enforcement of the membership rules. The pros, of course, it removes the liability from the city in the event of a sale to a non-member or a guest that results in a liability claim, and that the club has more flexibility in sales. The cons may be that other restaurants may not support a reduced fee for nonprofits for the same license. So that's kind of where we're at tonight, and we wanted to get this out in front of the city. A change in a fee schedule for a liquor does require a public hearing, and that is why we're talking about it in a public forum. And that way the other bars or anybody in the public can have the opportunity to speak for or against or ask any questions.
Thank you, Vicki. Vicki, have we received any letters or any comments from the bar
I have
owners?
not.
So we have received them. They were all notified of the meeting, obviously.
Yes, we did.
And I think as I reviewed this, and you and I talked earlier about it, I think really what it comes down to is taking care of some liability issues for the cities. So has there been a general rule that the cities have used, other cities have used in the past about what that fee schedule should look like?
Fees are, the city is open to set the fees however they wish to set them. We have done surveys quite often. We'll do surveys of where we fall in relationship to other communities around the state of about our size. And an interesting thing for Sauk Center, because I know that the license fee comes up quite often, is actually in 1945 our license fee was $2,100, which is higher than it is today. Then in 1958 it went to $1,900, and in 1973 it went to $2,200. Then it went back down to $1,977, and then '86 it dropped to $1,650, and 2000 went up, or 2003 went up to $1,750. So we've kind of gone up and down over the years, but we're still way lower than we were in 1945. So that's an interesting information. But aside from that, we are about halfway in the middle of all the cities of our size range. So some are higher, some are lower. We're not above or below the average.
Thank you. And I understand we can talk about that fee structure during the approval of the fee schedules, but just wanted to ask that question. So with that, does the council have any other questions for clarification? No? All right, thank you, Vicki. Is there anybody here in the audience who wishes to be heard in regards to the public hearing before us? Anybody here wish to speak in opposition or in favor of this public hearing? I will call a third time. Is there anybody who wishes to be heard in regards to the public hearing tonight? Hearing none. Is there any last questions of council before I close the public hearing? None? Okay. With that, we'll close the public hearing and we'll open up the regular scheduled meeting. Okay. Moving on. Reports and presentations. Police Department monthly report. Brian?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Activity report for November 2013. Some of the numbers we had 5 alarms. We had 14 assists for persons. We had 25 assists for other agencies. We had 18 child custody cases. 11 dog complaints. 9 small amount of marijuana and drug paraphernalia arrest. 6 gas no pays. We had 15 matter of information calls, 16 medicals, 8 accidents, 13 suspicious calls, 12 thefts. Verbal warnings, we had 147. And we did 7 welfare checks. And if you compare that to last month, we're down 29 for ICRs, down 47 for warnings, and down for total activity of 76. And then when you compare it to 2012, we're down 35 for ICRs, 83 for warnings, down, and down a total of 118. November was pretty quiet. Busy with investigations, but quiet otherwise.
Very good. Does anybody have any questions for Brian? None? I guess I do. The discharging of weapon in city. You want to give us maybe what that may have
That either
been?
was a hunting in the immediate river in the city limits, or it could have been as simple as a call where someone thought they heard a gunshot and it was unfounded.
Very good.
Yep.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. All right, we'll move on to our action items this evening. Action item 7A. Approved resolution 2013-90, awarding the 2014 fuel and vehicle wash contract. Okay.
This is for the 2014 calendar year. We did advertise we solicited quotes for the 2014 fuel bid, and we received one back. It was from Kranz Superstaff, and they are proposing a 5-cent per gallon discount for the unleaded ethanol, the number 1, number 2 diesel, the premium diesel, and along with 10 free car washes. They are the only person that did submit a bid for fuel this year. And Holiday was also, or Kranz Superstop was also the bidder for 2013. So they're the only one we have that has offered a discount. And one other thing, the council has had prior discussions on whether they should award it for a 2-year versus a 1-year. He would take it for a 2-year if you were to so offer it, but we did not advertise it that way.
Okay. Any questions of staff? Hearing none. We only received one bid, so typically we receive multiple bids, but for whatever reason this year we got one. So with that, I guess it's pretty simple to make a decision. So with that, I'll call for a motion to approve resolution 2013-90, awarding the 2014 fuel and vehicle wash bid to Kranz Superstop.
So moved.
Motion by Keith.
Second.
Second by Dave. I'll call for discussion.
This is just for 1 year, right?
Should this be for
1 year, yeah.
1 year.
Okay.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor and seconded to approve the resolution 2013-90 awarding the 2014 fuel and vehicle wash bid to Kranz Superstop for 1 year. Any other discussion? I'll call the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. 4 in favor and against. Okay, we'll approve resolution number 2013-91, awarding the refuse collection contract. Vicki.
And this is the quote for the 2014 refuse collection services, and this is for the collection services for the city in our buildings, not for the public. Sometimes that gets confusing. We did receive 3, one from Waste Management, one from Becker City Sanitation, and the other from West Central. The quotes were $650, $973, and $1225 in that same order. One thing to note, that Waste Management's bid deviated from the specs. They does not include a 2-time pickup per week in the summer months in the campground and the parks. And they also have a rotating schedule, so they weren't able to accommodate on the days that we had requested. But they did offer to double up on the cans rather than coming 2 times a week. We did try that in 2013. We did have some complaints with odor, et cetera, in the campground and in the parks by having them sit there that long. So something you might want to take into consideration. And also we had the downtown litter baskets. They did not pick those up as well. And so we need to know if the council, if that alternate proposal with the double up on the cans versus the 2 times a week, et cetera, is acceptable. And that would then deviate from the specs that we provide. And if we do decide to do that, we might want to give that opportunity to the other 2 haulers, because that might change their bid if we do that. Or the council can throw out that bid because it doesn't meet it. One other item to consider is that we did have discussion in the past to begin a 2-year cycle on refuse haulers, just as we did for the gas, and the haulers have stated they would abide by the rate for 2 years. So I guess that's the two-part issue for the council tonight. We award the bid based on an alternate specs by not picking up 2 times a week, et cetera. And then also there were a couple issues with when we have big events going on at the senior center and in the ice arena and stuff, if they can't come right away to pick it up and then it sits there for a while, that causes some problems. So I want to have the council have that discussion first before you award the bid, because it does mean changing the specifications, and if you're okay with that, then that's fine. Otherwise, we would want to throw that one out and then go with the next highest bid that does meet our specs. So if anybody has any questions, I know it's a little confusing there, but we want to make sure that we're comparing apples to apples here.
Vicki, just a couple thoughts. I know you and I had a chance to visit about this, and I'll share some of our discussion. Certainly, I know we have requested some additional service pickups and whatnot throughout the year as Vicki stated, and I know we had some pushback over being able to come and pick up outside of the normal pickup.
Correct.
And so that was kind of hard, just because of the fact that I understand that they're not in the area and they're not available, where potentially if we used a local hauler, that would not necessarily be the case. The other concern that I have is we really got 2 things here. One is whether or not we do 2 years, and what has traditionally happened with the refuge quotes year from year. Have we typically seen an increase? And if so, do we know how much that's been? And if we lock it in for 2 years, we'll get the same rate in year 2 as we're getting in year 1? Is that the way I understand that?
We would get the same rate in year 2 as we would in year 1.
So we potentially see a savings in year 2 by locking in now at 2 years. And we typically see an increase annually.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Anybody have any other questions for staff?
I guess I have one. I don't really think we should deviate from the 2 times per week pickup, because, just because you're going to double up on cans doesn't mean that those extra cans are going to be in the right places where the most people are going to use them, so you might wind up with overflowing ones. Or if they're talking about big dumpsters doubling up on that, then you may have a parking issue. And then there are dumpsters all over that. Some of them will be empty and some will be overflowing.
Correct. We have always, Vicki, had 2 times a week pickup.
We have.
Okay. And the low bidder is not willing to do 2 times a week as requested.
And this last year, we went with the 2, we doubled up on the cans, and we tried it for 2013. And we were getting complaints from people using the shelters and in the campground, et cetera, that the odor, et cetera, because it's in the summertime that it's the issue.
So 2013 is the first year we went to 1 time a week pickup. We doubled the cans and we got some complaints. And so our bid was requesting 2 times a week, and the low bidder would not meet that.
Correct.
Thank you.
Then I just had one other thing. I don't know if we should lock ourselves in for 2 years on this particular, because maybe the bidder that lost out, or if we do reject to accept that on that basis, maybe next year they'll come in cheaper too, with the same service. So I guess I'd like to keep it annually.
Okay. Any other council comments?
Yeah, there's quite a difference between the low bidder and, the second one in line as far as a monthly rate. But I've always kind of went, if you're getting the service, it's worth paying a little extra for it. So, that's probably a personal thing. The other part is the specs are the specs, and we've never, went out on a bid that didn't comply with what our specs were. And I don't know why we would start doing it now.
I would agree. Is there any other council comments?
Oh, I think I agree with that. It'd be nice to lock it in, but I think to be fair, you got to tell them up front, change the rules halfway.
Okay. All right. With that, what's the wishes of the council? Is there a motion to approve Resolution 2013-91, accepting the bid for the 2014 refuse collection services?
Do we have to?
We need to specify who then.
I can.
I will make a motion to approve that resolution 2013-91 with the specification that Becker's City Sanitation would be the lowest responsible bidder.
Very good, thank you.
I'll second
We
it.
have a motion by Dave, and we have a second by Warren to approve the resolution 2013-91, accepting the bid for the 2014 refuse collection services to Becker's City Sanitation for $11,684 annually. That is our motion.
Yep.
Yep.
Second, thank you. Is there any discussion?
I just have one question. Does it require another bid to throw out that proposal, or
You need a motion?
another motion, I'm sorry?
We're not required by statute to take the lowest bid if there's,
Okay.
The other question that I have is, were we going to stay with 1 year on your bid?
Yeah, that's, I believe that's the wording of the resolution now,
Yeah,
so
it is.
not changing
All
it.
right.
Yep. Okay. Staff, is he clear on the motion? Okay. All right, with that, no other discussion, I'll call the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. 4 in favor, none against. Okay, moving on to approve 2014 boards and commission appointments.
We have nominations for the various board and commission openings for the city for 2014, and then some of those are more than one-year terms. I don't know if you want me to go through them one at a time, or if I can just read them off and you'll enact them by one motion. We don't have more than, let's put it that way, so if we have one position, we either have 0 or 1 to fill it. So if you want me to just go read them all off, and or do you want to do them one at a time?
You know, we have, as you stated, no extras, so if you don't mind, I can go through them for you.
Okay.
And I'll have a recommendation for the council to consider. This evening, we have our board and commission appointments. And as was in your packet, we had one park board position open to be appointed for a 2-year term. At this time, when this packet was presented, we had nobody apply, so at this time, I do not have a recommendation for that one position. Planning Commission has 2 positions to be appointed for a 3-year term. Again, at the time of this packet, there was nobody who had applied, so I do not have a recommendation for that either. Going through, continuing on to the Public Utilities Commission, we had 2 positions to be appointed for a 3-year term. The term of Rich Bullard and Dennis will expire on December 31st. We received 2 nominations, David Thomas and Dennis Ricken. I do recommend that the 2 folks who applied, Dave and Dennis, be appointed to the Public Utilities Commission. We'll move on to the Senior Center Board, and then just due to a council appointment, we'll take that one and make that a separate appointment, and then we'll do the rest of them together if the council don't mind. So moving on to the Senior Center Board, we had 4 positions to be appointed for a 3-year term. We had 4 applicants, Lorraine Peschel, Nancy Kozlakis, Victor Schwinghammer, and Pat Scherf. I recommend to the council to appoint all 4 members back to the Senior Center Board for a 3-year term. Convention and Visitors Bureau, we had 2 positions to be appointed for a 3-year term. We had 1 applicant, Evie Schilling, and I'm recommending Evie be appointed to the Convention and Visitors Bureau. The Airport Commission had 2 positions to be appointed for a 3-year term. We had 2 applicants, Tom Winker and Mike Bouchard Jr., and I'm recommending both Tom and Mike be appointed to the Airport Commission. The EDA Board had 1 position to be appointed for a 6-year term, and we had 1 applicant, Dennis Heinen, and I'm recommending Dennis be appointed to the EDA Board for a 6-year term. Centricare Sauk Center had 1 position to be recommended for a 3-year term. We had 1 applicant, Tim Borgman, and I'm recommending Tim be appointed to the Centricare Center Board for a period of a 3-year term. Those are my appointments to the committees as outlined. I would ask the council to approve all of the committees as I stated, with the exception of the Public Utilities Commission, and we'll take that appointment in a separate motion. Is there any questions of staff or council?
The 1 position on the Convention Visitors Bureau, that's the 1 member at large that's open?
No, that's a lodging.
It's a lodging one?
It's her own expired term.
but there's 2 positions.
Which one's still open, Vicki?
This one that would be still open is the one, the chamber representative.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions of staff? If not, is there a motion to approve the appointments as presented with the exception of the Public Utilities Commission?
So moved.
We have a motion by Dave. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Keith. Is there any discussion? I'll call the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. 4 in favor, none against. And now I will ask the council to approve the Public Utilities Commission, two positions to appointed for a 3-year term. We have 2 applicants, Dave Thomas and Dennis Ricken. I'm recommending that we appoint Dave and Dennis to the Public Utilities Commission, each for a 3-year term effective January 1st, 2014. Is there a motion?
So moved.
There's a motion by Keith. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Warren. Is there any discussion? I'll call the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions?
Aye.
Motion carries. 3 in favor, none against, 1 abstention. Thank you, Dave.
Can I ask one thing?
Yep.
One thing of staff, for the park board, we got 1 position with nobody going for it. And for planning commission, just for, since we're on TV and I know the press is here, can we lay out the guidelines of, I know park board, you can live outside the city limits, but
That is correct. The park board, you can live outside the city limits and just be in our, what we call our service area. And the planning commission, however, is restricted to city residents. And so what we're recommending that we do is keep those 2 board positions open until filled. So we will re-advertise those until we have a good candidate to fill them, and then we'll just fill them at a future meeting. And so if anybody wishes to serve on it, they certainly can come by City Hall and pick up a nomination form, and we'll move from there.
okay, thank you.
Thank you, Vicki.
And you will have an opening on the CVB board as well that's waiting.
There is an unfilled position on the CVB board, and that is a recommendation from the Chamber of Commerce, and so we're working on that. The CVB board actually is presenting a proposal in January to the City Council for an amendment to the bylaws, so that might fill that position. But in the interim, we do not have someone to fill that spot.
So the 3 positions that are available and open as of today yet is on the park board, the planning commission, and the CVB.
4
Correct.
positions, 3 spots.
Yep. All right, moving on. Thank you. Approve the partial payment voucher 1 to R.L. Larson.
Payment approval number 11 has been submitted for payment by R.R. Larson. This was for some extra final work that was done in 2013 on the 4th Street project. The total pay request is for $8,481.37. You'll see that the work completed to date is just shy of $2.5 million. The final lift will go on next spring, and then that project will be wrapped up. So what we're requesting tonight is approve the payment voucher number 11 in the amount of $8,481.37.
Thank you, Vicki. Is there any questions of staff? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the payment voucher number 11 in the amount of $8,481.37 as presented?
So move.
Motion by Warren. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Dave. Is there any discussion? Call the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. 4 in favor, none against. Okay, moving on. Approve resolution 2013-92, establishing the 2014 administrative fee schedule. Vicki.
And the next 3 items all have to do with the fee schedule that we're enacting for 2014. There's 3 separate actions simply because of different ways those types of fees need to be enacted. The first section that we have is administrative fees. Administrative fees are things like rentals of City Hall, T-hanger rentals, equipment charges, those things that you would see as a fee. I do have in your packet the fee schedule, that's the entire fee schedule, and the ones that are highlighted in yellow are the ones that are proposals for a change. I can go through those quickly. The administrative fee for sidewalk, snow removal, and lawn mowing by the city, we had enacted a $10 admin fee for the snow removal side of it, but and we're proposing to include that also for when we have to go out and do the lawn mowing. That has an administrative fee. The other, a proposal on the next page, the park board is recommending in the campground, the seasonal sites by the lake were called prime sites, number 23 through 28. They're recommending that annual rate be raised to $1,500 to be the same as the other large newer sites that we had created, so that we would have prime sites by the lake and then also the large sites, and they would be rated the same at $1,500. The park board also recommends in the hockey, or for the hockey association at the ice arena. As you know, they have $60 an hour, which they supplement to $50,000 annually with donations. The park board wanted a stipulation in there that is for the 18 weeks, which is the normal season, that if it was to be kept open longer or start earlier, that we would be able to bill for that because there's extra costs involved. On the next page, the other change in fee is the fire department is more of a clarification that a truck call out for a cleanup or a rescue or a service call kind of has a flat fee minimum. Because the reason they do that is rather than bill by how many people show up when they're just providing a flat service, they just wanted to bill a flat rate. So that would be $200, $300, and $200 for like a cleanup, a rescue, or a service call. So those were the proposed changes. Of course, if you have any questions on any of the other fees, I'd certainly entertain those questions as well.
All right. Just for one additional comment in regards to, I visited with John in the fire department, and one of the things that, as the way we're doing it today, based on response and the number of people that respond in time, is somebody on the freeway, depending upon if it's during the day, might get a bill for a very minimum charge if there's very few firemen or rescuers that are in town or available for the call. But if somebody has the same type of scenario and it's 2 a.m. and everybody's around, that bill might be significantly different. This makes things much more clarified about what the costs are going to be, and it's much easier to manage. So just for some clarification on that, I think it's more consistent and more fair.
And it's also for insurance billing reasons.
Correct.
Right?
Yep. Any other questions in regards to the administrative fees as presented? And I know Vicki outlined some of the changes. Is there any other specific ones that the council feels needs to be considered?
I've just got a couple questions on the first page on the administrative labor rate. You know, that's at $25 an hour. Hasn't been changed since 2002. Do we feel comfortable with leaving it at that, or should it be raised?
I think the kinds of things that we would charge that for, I think we're comfortable with that.
Okay.
A lot of times that's administrative if we have them digging up files, like the office staff, etc. That's what that's really for.
Okay. The other, just in one comment on the administrative fee for the sidewalk, snow removal, and lawn mowing. It's been the council's thing to be waiving administrative fees whenever anybody's delinquent. I was just wondering whether or not we should even put it in if the councils are going to waive it. You know.
Maybe we won't. Maybe we won't anymore.
Well, you might not. But it's just one of those things I wanted to bring up.
It's a nice comment, but I think we hear the point.
I think we've usually been looking at waiving a $100 fee.
Great.
You know, $10 is considerably less than that. On that fee, though, I know I don't have an issue. First, to clarify, this is a per occurrence.
Right. This is if last week we had to go out and snow and she sends out a bill today, there's a $10 admin fee on that bill.
Okay, so just to clarify that. And I personally have no problem with the grass cutting, which is private property maintained by the private individuals or not maintained because the city's out there. Sidewalks I see a little differently. If it would be different if it was consistent. But we have places with sidewalks, places without, places that should have sidewalks and don't have them, places that have sidewalks which probably have less need of it than places that don't have sidewalks. And it's a public sidewalk, it's on public property, it's for public use. I have a hard time with finding the adjacent property owners for not clearing that. Again, you know, it'd be different if everybody in the city was required to provide a safe pedestrian walkway of some sort, but they aren't. You know, it's kind of like, well, we should thank them for the fact that they clean it most of the time rather than fining them because they didn't clean it once.
Thank you for your comments, Dave. Is there any other comment? I think, just for clarification, there's, the fee structure is one thing. I think the sidewalk policy and the enforcement of whether or not we clean it would probably be a different action than the fee schedule. Correct me if I'm...
Okay, but the sidewalks policy is in place right now.
Right.
And,
this is just the fee
and
schedule.
we've had that discussion about the sidewalk policy because there isn't a sidewalk in the city that meets it.
So I think that for some clarification, if we want to talk about the sidewalk policy, we should have staff bring that up at another future meeting.
That's fine.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other comments in regards to the administrative?
On the street openings.
I'm sorry, what?
On the street openings on, page 41 for us.
Yep.
Is that deposit, are we handing back refunds, or are we billing out more on a regular basis? Or what I'm getting at is maybe we should increase it to cover so we don't have that extra paperwork on refunds, or...
Well, what we'll do is we'll collect that up front, and then when it's all done, sometimes they'll get it done and we don't have to do anything and we refund it. Other times we complete it and refund the difference. We don't really run across yet where we have to bill them additional. So
Okay.
we're able to do it within those dollar amounts.
That's
So
basically
is
what I'm asking, yeah.
That's really a deposit,
Right,
if you want to look at it from
It's a
that
deposit,
perspective.
yeah, okay.
Okay, any other questions in regards to the fee schedules? I do have one question. I know, Vicki, you and I talked about the seasonal sites and going up from 1,300 to 1,500, just to be consistent with the larger sites. That's not going to put us, there's a big demand for those sites, being they're down by the lake. That won't make those sites unfavorable to rent by increasing it to 1,500.
I think those sites have been rented out and the people are hanging on to them tight. I know that if they decided to move out, we would fill them immediately. I mean, I'm
Okay.
pretty confident there.
Thank you.
The one thing on the monthly and the 4 weeks, I don't have a problem with how that is. I was just wondering if we shouldn't have that in the fee schedule, that monthly means from the first of the month to the first of the next month, not from the 8th to the 8th, or if I remember right, the park board discussed it and it's supposed to be.
It's from the 1st to the 30th, or
Right.
it's for the month itself.
I don't know if it needs to be clarified in there.
That's what it is in our rules. I mean, we can put that in the fee schedule too if you want. I mean,
But does our rules already apply the dates of the 1st to the 31st?
right, yes.
Okay. We don't.
Then we don't need it, okay.
Yeah, unless it's requested.
Right.
To general public. So, as long as it's in the rule. Is there any other questions in regards to the fee schedule? Dave?
No.
Keith, you good?
Nope, I'm fine.
Okay. With that, I believe then there is no additional changes based on our conversation. So is there a motion to approve the 2013-92 adopting the 2014 fee schedule for administrative user fees as presented?
So move.
Motion by Warren, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Keith. Is there any discussion?
Let's put the sidewalk policy on to a policy committee.
Okay. So with that, Vicki, I think general consent of the council would be is we would move the sidewalk policy to the policy committee to review. Thank you, Dave. Is there any other comments before I call the motion? Call the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. 4 in favor.
Just to clarify, that's to put it on there to review whether we should even have that policy that adjacent property owners clean it?
Alternatives, I think.
Okay.
I think just an overview of the policy in general and in a whole, right, Dave?
I think we tried once to define exactly what a clean sidewalk means,
We ended up with the same one, but we'll try
Well,
again.
yeah, we threw up our hands, so.
I hear what you're saying. Okay. Moving on to F, approve resolution 2013-93, establishing the 2014 schedule of penalties.
This resolution, or this part of the fee schedule, is actually for violations of city code and the administrative penalties that it establishes. You can see on there that it's violations of zoning, violations of liquor, animal impounds, traffic violations, nuisances, etc. We do not have a lot of changes on this particular part of the code, other than the Planning Commission wanted to change the fee for having a lack of a permit or a failure to file an amended plan. If someone comes and gets a permit for something and then builds a house twice as large and exceeds and goes over the setback, or they don't get a permit at all in the beginning, they wanted to have, in 2013, the fine was $100, and they are proposing to go 2 times the building permit fee, or $100, whichever is greater. So that is the Planning Commission's recommendation.
Okay. Any questions of staff?
Just to clarify, I want to make sure that the wording of our statutes are such that it doesn't mean for $100 you can ignore your building permit requirements.
No, you still need to get the permit. This is just
Well,
fine.
I mean, I don't want to get into a position where somebody says, well, I'm going to leave my shed on the property line, and here's the $100.
I see where you're coming from. And this here is for not getting the permit in the first place, and what you're referring to is if they're not.
Well, I think we've got amended plans and things like that. I just want to make sure that, I filed a plan, I didn't follow it, here's my $100.
And how that would be handled is they'd have to correct it, get a variance, or get a variance. Correct it or get a variance, but they would still be subject to the fine.
That's right, as long as we still enforce
The rule.
the rules. All right.
Yes. Thank you, Dave. I would agree. And again, I think what we're doing here is trying to find a penalty fee that is more in line with the situation, but doesn't grant the permission to do it or leave it if there is a violation. It's just that not only are they going to have to correct it, they're probably going to be paid an additional fee. So with that, there's no additional questions of staff. Is there a motion to approve Resolution 2013-93, adopting a schedule of offenses and voluntary administrative penalties pursuant to Section 10.98 for 2014?
So moved.
Motion
And second.
by Keith and seconded by Dave. Is there any discussion?
I just want to mention, we got 2 pages of administrative penalties. I just want to commend staff that overlooks this on trying to stay ahead of this, because there's an awful lot of stuff going on in town, and it's hard to keep up along with doing their normal duties. And I guess it's going to kind of go down to where I'm almost asking the public to, if you see something happening and you don't see a sign in the window saying they got a building permit, at least call and notify us, because, it all comes back on tax base, and everything else affects everybody eventually. So.
Very good. I agree. The administrative penalties and administrative fees are things we've been working on for many years. We continue to add some. We continue to add more responsibility and work on our staff. So I agree wholeheartely that although there's only 2 here, there's a number of other fees that we have in place as well. So.
And I also know there's a lot of people that have called in, and sometimes it doesn't get taken care of, but it's just a lack of staff time to get some of it, and people just ignore the fact of the warnings and that besides, so.
Very good. Thank you for the comments. With that, I'll call the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. 4 in favor, 1 against. Moving on to approve ordinance 744, establishing fee schedule for license and permits.
Minnesota statute also requires certain fees and licenses and permits have to be established by ordinance, and you have those laid out in front of you, and these are more like permits, or licenses, like liquor licenses and building code licenses and zoning permits and those types of things, what is under here. This is where we are looking at establishing that new license for the clubs to get a restaurant license for the alcohol. So that is the section right in the middle of that page 50 that you have in your packet. What that does is it establishes a restaurant on sale license instead of a club on sale at that same rate, if you decide to do that. And then the other 2 items that we have that were recommended changes for this section is cigarette licenses, recommended going from $50 to $75. And what that license fee is used for is to offset the cost of doing a compliance check, because when the police department has to do compliance checks on our cigarette license holders. And then the planning commission is recommending that the building permits go from the 1991 fee schedule they're currently on to the 1994 schedule. And that's what they're recommending that the city adopt. And we've been on the 94 schedule since 2003. So, but those are the changes on there that we are recommending.
Any questions?
When would that new fee be set?
It would be January 1st.
January 1 of 2014. Any other questions?
So we have to have a new fee tonight if we wanted to include it on that. If we want to change the fee for
the alcohol one?
nonprofits.
You know, if you don't want to change that one
It's
tonight.
established in
we
here
can-
already on, under intoxicated liquor license, page 50 of your packet. They're added right there in Class C. Those are new, top three.
Middle of the page.
So the fees are put in to go in effect January 1 of 2014 based on the recommendation. And the fees are outlined there.
If you're not ready to make a decision on that particular item, you could accept that from this action, and we could take action at a future meeting. The licenses don't renew until July 1st.
Okay.
But we included it in here because now's the time when we do the fee schedule.
Okay. So right now it is included. The council feels that those fees are, need to be reviewed more. We had no, this is what our hearing was on.
Right,
Basically on
right.
that fee schedule and those additional changes.
I
So
was just kind of wondering if we could break that out and study it a little bit more.
you feel that there's a need to do that?
I think there is. It's still quite a discrepancy between the two. They're more or less getting the same privileges as the restaurant only currently does, for-profit ones. I guess maybe we should lower that one commiserately, the $17.50 to...
Well, the $17.50 are the intoxication liquor licenses for Class A, B, and C, depending upon on-sale hotel, motel, and restaurant. The current proposed Class C licenses based on tonight's public hearing is for restaurant licenses for on-sale, Club 501 to 1,000 members, and it's broken down by cost there, $650, $500, and $300. So I think what you have here is you have an intoxication liquor license that's been $17.50 since 2003, which was $2,100 in 1945, I think is what Vicki stated. And then we have new fee structures for the on-sale portion. Vicki, what were they paying for the on-sale portion?
It's the Class D right below it.
Okay, so
So
they
if we
were
do this,
paying,
we-
They were paying $300.
they were paying $650, $500, and $300. They ain't changed. The
we're
fee
not
is not
changing it.
changing at all. It's just the classification.
Okay.
Okay?
The one question there is if it, with the restaurant
Yeah.
on sale for the club, does that require them if they go and get that license that they got to have a restaurant or serve food?
They already do. But yeah, they would have to have, in order to have a restaurant license, you have to have a food license, and you have to qualify to be able to do that.
Okay, so if another organization wanted a clubhouse or whatever, and they wanted that one there, and let the public come in, they'd have to somehow provide food.
If they wanted the restaurant class license, yes.
Okay.
You would have to have a,
There's a rule about
License.
percentage of food sales, I think, to
Right.
qualify.
Yeah.
so-
yep.
Okay.
All right, any other questions?
Okay. The only thing I have, just clarification, the Class C club license section is all new this year, right? There was no charges before. It's just the way it's laid out.
The
those-
yellow is new.
yellow
Yeah,
is
it's just
new.
that the way it's laid out, it's in the 2013 column, and it looks like we had it already. That's all, there should be over one column. I just want to clarify.
Right, it's a copy of the Class D below.
Yep. So we had
You're
the
right,
fee,
though.
only it was a class.
But it
D.
was a different class, yeah.
Yep. That is correct. Any other questions? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve ordinance 744 establishing fees for city licenses, permits, and services as outlined? Presented.
So move.
Motion by Warren, seconded by Dave.
Second, yep.
Is there any discussion? I'll call the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. 4 in favor, none against. All right, moving on to action item H, approve ordinance 745, authorizing summary publication of ordinance 744, which we just discussed.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. It just authorizes us to publish in summary format rather than publishing the entire fee schedule.
Okay. Which is consistent with what we've done in prior years.
Correct.
All right. Any questions? Is there a motion to approve ordinance 745, authorizing the summarizing summary publication of ordinance 744?
So moved.
Motion by Keith, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Dave. Any discussion? Call the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. 4 in favor, none against. Okay, moving on, approve resolution number 2013-94, authorizing decertification of TIF districts 1 through 5.
On July 1st, 1998, the city entered into a tax increment financing district 1-5. It had 3 purposes. It was to provide economic development opportunities south of I-94 by assisting with paying the extra cost of assessments attributable to spanning the freeway with water and sewer. It was to assist with the expansion of cabinet components, and it was to assist with the site acquisition and demolition of the Meyer property for a possible discount retail store. Those are the 3 objectives that were laid out in the plan. The final payment was made in 2012, and it was on a bond payment that was used to take care of those extra costs of assessments when we spanned the freeway with city water and city sewer. With all debt settled, it's recommended the district be decertified and that the remaining funds be transmitted to Stearns County for redistribution to the county, the city, and the school. The final amount estimated to be repaid to Stearns County for redistribution is estimated at $120,000. And with the decertification, the tax capacity of the parcels in the district will be reclassified and will be included in the general taxation for the city beginning with 2014. And the EDA did meet and discuss that, and it is their recommendation that the City Council approve Resolution 2013-94, decertifying Tax Increment Financing District 1-5, effective December 31st, 2013.
Very good. Thank you, Vicki, for the outline. It's great to see that we've had a TIF district that's been on since for 15 years, that we are finally going to decertify and put those dollars back onto the tax rolls. So I look forward to seeing everybody be able to take advantage of our forward thinking to decertify these districts that's no longer that have met their obligations. So with that, the EDA did meet, as Vicki stated, and our recommendation was to approve the resolution 2013-94, decertify the tax increment financing district 1 through 5 effective December 31st, 2013. Anybody wish to make that motion?
So moved.
A motion by Dave. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Warren. Is there any discussion? I'll call the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. 4 in favor, none against. Thank you, Vicki, for following through on that and working to get that decertified, and the rest of the staff as well. Moving on to J, approve transfer admin costs to administer TIF District 1.5. This is a follow-up to that.
Correct. This is a follow-up with that. And as part of the TIF district closure, the EDA has recommended that the city general fund recoup some administrative costs incurred over the years for costs spent for staff time to administer the district. And what the city has typically done, rather than every year making a transfer from the district back to the general fund to reimburse for those costs, they wait till the end of the district and do that. And I don't know, whether that's a wise thing to do or not. I think it just makes it so that they know in the end that there's funds there to satisfy the other costs first. The EDA looked at various scenarios, and they're recommending that the city recoup 80 hours per year at the admin rate set by the fee schedule for each year with a cap based on the remaining budget. And so this calculates for TIF 1-5 as a transfer to the general fund of $26,480. And this was taken into consideration when I calculated the remaining funds to be transferred back to the county earlier. So what we're requesting is to approve that transfer from TIF Fund 1-5 to the general fund for admin cost reimbursement.
Okay. Any questions of staff? We felt after 15 years of administering it that the $26,000 fee was really not out of line, so.
Right.
Sounds like a deal, actually.
Yeah.
But that being said, I think we're being consistent in what we've done with prior districts. And, the recommendation of the EDA was to approve the transfer of the $26,480 from TIF Fund 1.5 to General Fund for Administrative Cost Reimbursement.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Warren. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Dave. Any discussion? Call the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. 4 in favor, none against. Moving on to K, approve resolution 2013-95, approving citywide year-end transfers, which is another common thing.
At the end of the year, the city council will approve the fund transfers to move funds into related debt service, TIF, sinking funds, etc. I do have the entire list of the transfers that we're talking about, and those include transfers of funds to sinking funds, transfers of dollars back out of the sinking fund, transfers to debt service, and also you'll note that transfer you just approved for the admin for the TIF district. I have them all laid out there for a total of $822,118.20 of transfers, and these are interfund transfers back and forth between existing city funds. And then what happens with these, it just kind of moves dollars into the right year, into the right fund, et cetera, for expenses. I don't know if you want me to individually list them out, or if you can read them out there.
Yeah, I can do that, Vicki. I think one of the things I will just note is many of these funds that we are transferring are for potentially for purchases already made or decisions already made by the council throughout the year. So as Vicki stated, typically we do this at year end, but I will just outline the $822,118 Fund 100 to Fund 101, which is a sinking fund for equipment of 35 Public Works, Fund 100 Public Works to 101 sinking fund, 35,000. Fund 100 Public Works to 101 sinking fund for the chipper of more equipment, 25,000. Fund 100 Parks to 101 sinking fund for a mower of 25,000. Fund 100 Campground to 101 sinking fund of 45,000. Fund 100 Comp Plan to 101 sinking fund of 2,452. Fund 101 sinking to 100 Public Works for the 2012 plow truck of 145,000. Fund 225 Fire to 328 Debt Service of 64,890. Fund 230 of the Airport to 318 Debt Service of 38,312. Fund 230 Airport to 409 Airport Master Plan, 15,000. And Fund 250 Tax Increment Financing to 326 Debt Service of 250,000. Also Fund 255 of TIF to 100 General Fund for Admin, which is what we just approved, 26,480. Fund 259 TIF to 330 Debt Service Fund, 24,763, and Fund 280 Storm Utility to 331 Debt Service of 125,220. With that, we have a total of $822,118.20 in fund transfers. Is there a motion to approve Resolution 2013-95 authorizing the interfund transfers as noted?
So moved.
Motion by Dave. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Warren. Any discussion? I'll call the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. 4 in favor, none against. We'll just officially move the dollars to the decisions we made throughout the year.
I just wanted to comment, I think you didn't miss a lick on reading all of that. Not even a cent out of place, Brad. I'm impressed.
It must be the years. Moving on to L, approve year-end fund designations.
This is very similar to what you just did. This just actually takes the fund balances then in those funds and formally allocates them for the purposes that you said. Now, some of those transfers were for existing year debt service. Some of them were for future expenditures. Those that were for future expenditures go on to this next page of this designated fund balance, and you will see them additions and subtractions as we go through. The one thing that will change is they'll have interest allocated to these numbers at the year end. Otherwise, you can see exactly what's in the general fund for specific purposes, what's in the sinking fund for specific purposes, et cetera. And that is what this designation does. And so we have a total designated funds of $594,328.02, and that is what we are asking you to approve tonight. And this actual worksheet then shows up in the audit, so it balances out with the audit, it balances out with the books of the city to show what we've designated funds for. The one thing that's not on here, that's a separate page when you think about that, is a designation of those hospital funds that we're in custody of. And they're not on this sheet because we aren't able to access those. And so that's why they're not showing on here. Somebody had asked me that question. We didn't spend that money.
Very good. Is there any questions of staff? I can certainly outline the 7 things just for clarification and for the general public's knowledge. Changes for the 2013 have been made with the additions and deletions, as I'll note. We're going to transfer $35,000 to the sinking fund for streets for truck. Transfer of $25,000 to the sinking fund streets for the 2014 chipper. Transfer of the $145,000 from the sinking fund to streets for 2013 truck purchase. Transfer of $45,000 to sinking fund for parks and campground. The transfer of $25,000 to the sinking fund parks for the 2013 equipment purchases. Transfer of the $2,452 to the sinking fund for our comp plan, and a reduced fire building fund designation by $7,000 annual towards the building. With that, and as outlined, as Vicki stated, is there a motion to approve the designation of funds as presented?
So moved.
Motion by Keith, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Dave. Is there any discussion? Call the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. 4 in favor, none against. Okay, moving on to M, establish alternate date for the January 1st, 2014 meeting.
As you may have noticed with the meeting calendar, January 1st falls on a Wednesday, and that would be our first meeting. So we have to have a couple options. We can move it till the next day, the next week, or we can cancel it altogether. So I guess it's up to the city council. Our bylaws don't dictate how we should do it. It's up to the city council to make that decision.
I did get a chance to visit with Vicki just to find out for the council as to what we had on, typically on our agenda for the January 1st meeting or what we have coming up. And it appears that the only item that was on the agenda as of today for the January 1st meeting was for me to make recommendations to the council for appointments to committees. That was the only thing. We have no other action, Vicki.
Not yet.
As we stated, not yet. So I guess my recommendation at this point, we can go a couple extra weeks on the committee that we're currently on, and we'll appoint them at the 3rd Wednesday of the month in January, and we'll just skip the January 1st meeting, being it falls on the first day of the year.
That's fine.
General consent
That's
of
right.
the council?
Oh, yeah. All current committee assignments just be carried on for another couple weeks. Yeah.
That's correct. Okay, Vicki, general consent, we will cancel that meeting and have our first meeting on the 15th. Okay, moving on. Number N, approve resolution 2013-96, calling for a redemption of 2000A bond.
The next 3 actions are all the same, but we need to take them by 3 actions. What they call for is the early redemption of 3 of our debt service bonds, and this is a recommendation of the Finance Committee, which is Brad Moore, and serve on that board. The first one is in 2000, the city issued taxable airport revenue bonds for $330,000 to finance the construction of an 11-unit T-hangar at the airport. In 2005, the interest rate was renegotiated. As of December 31st, 2013, the principal balance has been reduced to $110,000, is currently set to be finally paid on February 1st, 2016. It has been identified as a bond to be considered for prepayment on February 1st, 2014, because funds are available in the airport fund that could be used for this purpose. And so it is our recommendation that we approve Resolution 2013-96, calling for the redemption of 2000A taxable airport revenue bond.
Questions of staff? It's the Finance Committee's recommendation to approve the Resolution 2013-96, calling for redemption of 2008 taxable airport revenue bond. Is there a motion?
So move.
Second.
Motion by Warren and seconded by Dave. Is there any discussion? Call the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. 4 in favor, none against. Okay, moving on to approve Resolution 2013-97, calling for redemption of 2006A bond. Vicki?
Okay, in 2006, the city refunded an existing bond, which was a GO-TIF bond from 1996, and those were used to finance tax increment financing projects. At the time of issuance of the bond in 2006A, the amount was $2,720,000. It was projected that this new bond would be financially able to be paid ahead of its 2015 maturity date, which has come to truth. As of December 31st, the principal balance is $525,000. We have adequate funds in the debt service fund to fully prepay these bonds. So we have identified it as a bond to be considered for prepayment. It's 2006A, not 2000A. And so we're asking to approve Resolution 2013-97, calling for redemption.
Any questions of staff?
What's the interest rate on that bond? Current interest rate?
The current interest rate is 5%.
Okay.
Good time to pay that off, 5% interest rate. So it's a good time to get that one paid off at
Yeah.
5% interest rate. Any other questions? Hearing none, again, the recommendation of the Finance Committee is to approve Resolution 2013-97, calling for the redemption of the 2006A bond.
So moved.
Motion by Dave, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Keith. Any discussion? Call the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. 4 in favor, none against. And one more, approve Resolution 2013-98, calling for the redemption of the 2009A bond. Vicki?
In 2009, we actually consolidated 6 bonds into one, and now that one bond that we financed is now available to, or ready to be refunded. As of December 31st, the principal balance will be $370,000, and we do have the funds as of that date to fully prepay that bond, and that bond's average interest rate today is 4.4%. So we are requesting approval of Resolution 2013-98, calling for redemption of 2009A.
Any questions? Hearing none, again, the recommendation by Finance Committee to approve Resolution 2013-98, calling for redemption of the 2009A bond. Is there a motion?
So move.
Motion by Warren. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Dave. Is there any discussion? Call the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. 4 in favor, none against. Thank you. That finishes our action items for this evening. We have a few more things on our agenda. First thing,
One,
unfinished.
might I, just before we leave this area of financial transfers and everything, there was a time a few years ago when we got rather routinely financial updates on the city for our debt load, and I know that it's changed considerably, and I think it might be nice for us to see an update on exactly what our city's debt load looks like now.
Sure.
Okay, very good. Vicki, we can bring that to our January 15th meeting. Thank you. All right, moving on. Great point, Dave. Thank you. We have unfinished business, the senior dining contract. I believe council had given Vicki some directive at our last council meeting to review options and have further discussion with the seniors, and she has come back with some additional information. So, Vicki?
And as you know, on December 4th, the council had this renewal with senior dining and had questions as it related to that Section 5 regarding times the senior center would be closed. Specifically, the city policy on being closed due to inclement weather. The current policies that a school is closed during the bad weather, that the senior center is also closed. And the council then tabled that for review. And so the senior center board reviewed that policy, and I believe Dave was at that meeting. They reviewed the policy and they voted to recommend it remain unchanged. They feel it's worked well since 1994 when that was in its inception. And for your information, senior dining actually closed their services 5 times last year. 2 of those times the senior center was open and 3 times they were closed. So they also close, when they don't want to come up from Albany. So we can't say whether they would have been open those days we were closed or not, but there was also times they closed on their own. I think the senior center board is recommending that the renewal goes in with it remaining the same with that policy that they're closed when school is closed. Unless, Dave, if you took something different out of that meeting from what I
No, I think
reported back.
it's been done for many years, and, the feeling is that if the kids in the buses shouldn't be on the road, then probably the elderly shouldn't be on the road. And there've been some, occasional issues with people falling out there, and it's just something to avoid. And everything's in place when this, when the school is closed, that announcement is all over the place. If we want to do it ourselves, we don't have anything in place to do that.
And I think the bigger question was, do we want to, did the city want to dictate when it should or shouldn't be closed? And I was glad to hear that the feedback come back and said, no, this is what we want rather than what the city was requiring. So that was my feedback from that is I'm glad that they're consistent with continuing it as it is. I think it's a great plan. I just wanted to be assured it was something that they wanted rather than the city imposing. So with that, is there any other comments? Is there a motion to approve the renewal of the senior dining contract with Catholic Charities with the amendment noting the senior center will be closed commensurate with weather-related school closing?
So moved.
Motion by Dave. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Warren. I'll call the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. 4 in favor, none against. That's a big word. Moving on. Unfinished business, insurance agent of record. I can go over that, Vicki. I know at our council meeting on December 4th, the city council directed the letters to be sent to the insurance agencies in town requesting letters of interest in being the city's agent of record. In managing the city's League of Minnesota Cities Insurance Property Liability Casualty Policy. Just as an FYI, there were 9 letters were sent, and there's no action this evening. This is just for unfinished informational item.
Do you put a date as far as when we wanted those letters back, if interested?
Yes, we did, but I don't recall the date.
Okay. All right.
I believe the 23rd.
So they'll be coming back
Okay.
sometime.
The 23rd.
So we will be getting something very soon in the next few days.
Do we normally specify agent of record at the beginning of the year for a yearly thing, or?
No. we
Okay.
don't. With that, we'll move on then this evening to our consent agenda, as we have no new business. And our consent agenda has our schedule of claims, our list of checks, and then a resolution for accepting contributions. In regards to our schedule of claims, we have a total of unpaid claims of $135,015, paid claims of $2,059.91, for a total of schedule of claims of $137,074.91. We have November checks, check numbers 2027E through 2058E, for a total of $316,873.13. That also include 4 payrolls, as well as checks numbers 34,500 to 34,609. We also have a contribution that was made from Dean and Elaine Jensen for $50 to the fire department, and we're going to accept that in the form of a resolution, which is 2013-99. And I want to thank them for their donation to the fire department. That being said, that is all on our consent agenda this evening. Is there any questions on the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Motion to approve by Dave. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Keith. Any discussion? Call the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. 4 in favor, none against. Thank you. And we just have two things on our informational items. You have a 2014 meeting calendar, so take a look at the calendar for the up and coming year. It tells you when all of your meetings are for all of the different commissions and committees. This is also here at City Hall for anybody from the general public that wishes to see them. Again, the council meetings are always the first and third Wednesday of every month. The planning commission meets on the second Tuesday of every month. The airport meets on the second Wednesday of every other month. Park board meets on the first Tuesday of every month. EDA meets the first Wednesday of every month. HRA meets the second Monday of every month. Public utilities meets the second Monday of every month. Senior center board meets quarterly, March, June, September, and December, which is on the second Wednesday of the month. CBB board meets on the second Wednesday of every month. Fire relief meets on the first Tuesday of every other month. And the firefighters meetings are 7 p.m. on the first Tuesday of each month. The ambulance meets on the second Tuesday of each month. With that, I have nothing else on the agenda for this evening. We also have your minutes on the very back page of the last safety meeting. So with that, council have any comments? Otherwise, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
A motion by Dave. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Warren. Call the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.